very much for a very interesting, entertaining.
Yeah, sorry now. So they can see you. No, hop in there.
Oh, there we are. Let's see what's that. So thank you for a very interesting, entertaining, and comprehensive presentation this evening. It's amazing. I don't know where to start. We have time for a few questions. If anyone likes to ask or make a comment, there's one or two.
Thanks first for a wonderful presentation. It was like it's just so insightful for me because my father and all these people and my grandfather and grandmother, they all came from Carrick in Cornmore.
Oh, okay.
And my grandmother was a Canavi, and but in the case of the Joyce, I'm a Joyce, and my grandfather got a bit of land commission land in Oughterard, where I was to grow. But it's just something, the times that we're in it, seemingly he used to walk from Carrick to the Hill of Doon and then swim across the land and walk down to Portcarron where he had a bit of land. Okay. And the Canavis were, some of them were the last boat builders that were of Nagekill, yeah, and Lough Corrib. And so Michael Joyce, he migrated to Oughterard, if you like. And my grandmother's people, the Canavis, they went from Carrick to the vacated land in Tuckbrack. Right. And there's still some of the Canaries there in Tuckbrack. It was interesting. And I just finished, you say about your father and your grandfather and that, like everyone would know me as Jerry Giles, but when I worked for Dale Trayden and which became Woodross together. I was working up in Portomona, building a small factory up there, and the locals referred to me there as mock watching Vickers Chipper. So they had 3-4 generations in the one, you know, and it was the only place that I was referred to that, and it's still the same there.
And was the stuff on Joyce?
Yeah.
Was the stuff on Joyce?
Yes.
Right. Because in my line, there was a stuff on Joyce.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of Stephen, the last of the Joyce in Carrick, who only died a couple of years ago. And then he was John Stephen. And he lived to a big age, but he wasn't married, you know, so it died out there. But it was very interesting, and I'm looking forward to reading the book.
Well, I think basically what the story that I told is probably the story of the people I know. But I think every community could write a similar story. The names will be different, but the life experience will be the same. And they'll be so similar, you know, tales of hardship, tales of hard work, tales of survival, tales of everything, you know, and it was different times. And I suppose I would argue that the Land Commission might have got everything right, but I have to say that they certainly got a lot of things right in terms of redistributing Irish land back to the people of Ireland, you know, after 800 years, you know.
So I wrote on because of a neighbour, our neighbour of Martin and a good friend of his now, thank God. Just before I go, I have to meet this one later because my grandparents' side are Killeavings, and I think we must be related.
It's going to be a family reunion before the
I've been trying to figure out Killeaving side of the family for a long time.
Very good. Any other?
I think I'm not mistaken, people will respect Martin for what he is. He's a celebrity up in the area, whatever. But and he's not saying like you can take him for where he's down the ground and whatnot. But I remember Martin. I'm 2 years older than him. I went to school with his older brother, and 6 years of age, he was wandering around the local houses and visiting getting to know the old, and he was so comfortable with the old people. At 6 years of age, I have this vision. I can see him right to this day, sitting in my grandmother's rocking chair, in short pants, with the 2 legs down, chatting to my grandparents. And he was only 6 at the time. And so as he started off this tonight about lifelong learning, and he's just the epitomes of, and the attention to detail and the meat that goes on every little story and whatnot is so, I know, to figure out his book is anyone that wants to read it, and the stuff that's in it, and also this is only the start of what this Land Commission finds are going to be about. As a result of Martin's effort and a few others of us that have been working and rooting and trying to, 1st January this year, one little article in the Irish Times noted for the very first time that the government have taken this decision to start indexing them. Whatever it's going to do, so for I think about 2 years' time, we'll start seeing something. But this is such a treasure trove of information. We got one small sniff of it through a few series of things that I was delighted to be part of, and Martin capitalized on it on the day. The first time, I think, only in that, I think we might be the only people, 3 or 4 was that they took the article on, or the Walder records, and took them from the warehouse and brought them up to Cavan, and we spent a short day having a look at all the files. And this is only one file from thousands of records.
And hopefully it's the
So
beginning.
hopefully, if they'll start coming back, and when people like Martin and others start being able to get into them, we will have such an enrichment of culture and so on that we can all, because that's the stories all over Ireland.
The reason I think they're so rich is they're not just, I put in 1 or 2 examples, just the kind of detail that you can capture on one page, but there's some great stuff I came upon, like the bad horse. One of the farmers got a bad horse, and he got it certified by the vet, and the local Fianna Fáil come and were writing to the minister, you want to give him a new horse, and so it was absolutely hilarious. And then another man had a cow, because there were no hedges in the early days. It was striped. You were told where the boundary was, and they had to actually dig the ditches and plant them. And the cow died, and this man wrote the most beautiful little pithy letter as Gaeilge to the Land Commission. And I'd love to have got a copy of it, but it was, I said to people when I saw some of the stuff in the thing, be very careful that you don't confuse intelligence with qualifications. I have plenty of qualifications, but I had the good fortune to grow up at a time when free education came in. But there are so many people who haven't had the benefit of lots of education, who are incredibly smart and intelligent. And these files are so full of it. They wrote beautifully with clear thinking, concise. So that's why I think it's such an amazingly rich file archive.
Very good. Now, before
Just judges, see if there's any questions on
any questions on the line? Happy? Don't hear anything.
Hello,
Hello, yes, we can see you. and
Hello.
hear you.
I'm Frances Fahy. We moved up from Galway to Meath in 1962. I was 10 at the time, and my brother Mike is also here. But what I wanted to mention is that in 1962, to tell Martin, they didn't build bathrooms in the houses. And I mean, we're not talking about 100 years ago, it's whatever. So the first thing my father had to do was to build a bathroom, because there were so many of us, of course. And to think that the Land Commission didn't have the foresight to build houses with bathrooms, then I think, we just couldn't stomach it. And the following year, the families that were moved up from Mayo were given bathrooms, and there was nearly a kind of what will I say, a rivalry. They looked down on us because we were given the houses with no bathrooms, and they were given bathrooms. So it was funny. And then there was another thing that I just thought it would be worth telling. We were migrants, but I was 10 at the time, and I didn't know exactly what a migrant was, but it was just not a nice word, because at school, the kids at school, we don't talk to the migrants. The migrants can't play at this and the migrants can't play that. And at the same time, I was learning itinerance, the word itinerance. And I thought a migrant was an itinerant. And I said, I'm not a migrant. I live in a house. So of course that made me even seem more stupid to everybody. But that's just some of my little stories. And it was great to hear, because we knew a lot of people from Clonbord who had moved up, and the thing was that they were so good when we arrived. People came in, you're welcome to County Meath was the buzzword. Everybody came in, felt they had a duty to welcome us because they had been there a few years and they felt they had a lot to teach us.
Very
Okay.
good. Thank you very much, Francis.
Thank you
That's
very
great.
much.
Good. Any other comments? Now, before we finish, just a little bit of business, Pat. Could I have the packages you have? Just one or two bit of business and one or two announcements to make it. No, so to get the well. Thank you very much. So now, as a little token of appreciation, we've got a card for you. We also have a book from one of our own authors, his brother Conal Thomas. It says Wildflowers and a Down book. It's a treasure of a publication. Conal is here. Oh yeah, Conal is here as well. So thank you very much. Your book undoubtedly is a joy to read. As I said, I've got a bit through it. Pat's got it all, but Conal also writes really well. And as a follow-on, he hasn't publicized it much here, but he's recently published another book about his home place of Arrow in County Mayo, and it's entitled Arrow Now and Then. And it's a collection of stories, photographs, and reminiscences of the Franciscan monastery in Arrow and the various people. My goodness, they had some well-known people around. They had the first Catholic provost of Trinity College, Tom Mitchell, came from the area. Hardiman of Hardiman's History also came from the area, so it's also in here. The book reminds me of, if any of you listen to RT radio on a Sunday morning, it's like a collection of Sunday miscellany stories. It's a marvelous book, so congratulations and well done in publishing it. He hasn't publicized it much here, but I managed to get a copy of it from him, and it's well done. So if we're going to get a copy, we'll get a copy and add it to our own collection. Thank you very much here. So I think you've given us lots to think about for how we might proceed ourselves. It's a really interesting story. As you say, it applies to lots of parishes and lots of places in the west of Ireland. Even of a family who's moved from one part of Annadown to another part of Annadown on a much smaller migration, but like that's not.
Well, there was all the and that's why I say you need to be careful not to be caught up on the untenanted land thing, because people did move within parishes that moved from tenanted land to tenanted land. So it's a much bigger picture. So it's deserves to be explored, and that's why I say to people, even if you don't get writing now, you can challenge us because the stories are there.
Okay, very good. And finally, yes.
Just thanks for the talk, first of all, but just for an archive that was sealed and closed, how did you actually get into it?
This man brought the door down.
I got lucky.
Yeah.
I don't think at this stage we just have to win. Unfortunately, this effort that Mark has pointed out, I think 25 years ago the first effort was being made, and that was by a professor in the University in Maynooth, yeah, Professor Terence Dooley.
I know Terence Dooley was very critical of it over the years. It's just-
He's giving a talk in March next year on the Land Commission archives at the launch of Great Mead, which is the Mead Archaeological and Historical Society. So he's, and I believe he has recently published an article on it in History Ireland. So yeah, he's passionate, and I mean, he is one of the definitive sources. I've corresponded with him, we've chatted, so it's an absolute scandal in my view. I've taken a case to the Ombudsman, so we'll see what the Ombudsman does.
Colin, well, in the course of our journey, and so I happened to contact a former Minister for Agriculture in East Galway, you know him, and I was telling him that we were trying to get information about the Land Commission and so on. And he asked me, who are you dealing with there? And I said, I'm dealing with the officials at the Department of Agriculture. And so, anyway, I was telling them that we actually have got a short day's access, limited access, and so on. And his comment was, well, I was a minister, and you got an awful lot more than I ever did.
I reproduced probably around 12, 15 pages, actually, that I had taken photographs of my phone. I was doing things like, yeah, hello. So, and I asked permission for some. So when we went there, we said, look, Thomas was leading the group before us, and we said that the intention was to write a book. So I did an awful quandary because when it came to my permissions and citations, I had verbal permission from the date we visited Canada, and were very clear, and there were witnesses. But I felt that if I actually formally write to them seeking permissions, I need to break walls, so I will take my chances in court. But I have 3 solid citizens who will be my witnesses that we didn't do anything underhand or rear that we were right in front, saying why we were there, what we were going to use the material for, and I would have done it. And so I didn't actually ask for written permission, but I thanked them profusely for their permission, which was granted. So sometimes you have to just, and some a friend of mine joked, he said, you know, Martin, it said probably 5,000 books that they took in action this year. All part is unknown for 20 years. But I think we counted 15 or 16 different questions in the DAO, access to the land grant, Irish Land Commission. The last one, 2018, by Tweedy and Murphy, Catherine Murphy. But they cross all political sides and same answer all the time. Working at marketing, working documents, whatever it is, fragile.
Okay, so I think maybe we'll, sorry, just.
Given that there are lots of people here who know people who went, and obviously we have some of the people online, maybe we should collect some of the names and whatever, make sure that we're aware of the people from and down that went, so that we.
Well, I think that's what I was going to.
But that's Francis Fahey, is she in relation to Patrick Fahey from the Greenback? Or Joe?
Can you hear that, Francis?
Was I related to who?
Patrick Fahey from the Greenback, son, Oric and
The
Joe.
sound is very bad.
She can't hear the.
Yeah, I think the question has been answered on this end, Francis. So you're
Okay.
So I think we'll request anyone who has information to get it to some of the officers. I think the conversation is going to continue on a bit longer, but maybe in a more informal gathering. So just before finishing, I'd like to thank Irene for organising this and liaising with Martin. It's been a really intriguing evening, and I think we could stay here till 6 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock tomorrow evening and still be chatting. But let's formally end it and then have a chat afterwards. So maybe a round of applause for Martin.
Flan?
For those of you all online, thank you for coming in and have a good evening. Cheerio now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, Irene, we'll let you close things down there.